Welcome to SFL This Week. Along with Mike St. Green, I'm Cameron Irvine. Season 24, Week 4 is in the books, and we are here to break it down with you. Hope everybody's having a great day out there. I saw the chat, Alex West, Grant Hardaway, Kimbrell's in the house, DR Sim, Robert Thump, Justin Reside, Nathaniel Diggs. All the great suspects around here in the SFL. Mike, how you doing? How was your weekend? Did you survive the snowpocalypse of last week down there in H-Town?
We survived the great winter storm of 2025, Cam. We turned on all the fireplaces and heaters and did all we could down here, built a couple of miniature snowmen at that, but we did all that, the usual suspect type things. But hey man, it was a great weekend of SFL action. I've been sitting here trying to describe what we saw this weekend. It was exciting. It was strange in a way, but strange in a good way. But man, it was some fantastic games this weekend. I can't wait till we get into the highlights.
There are 3 undefeated teams left, Mike, and none of them made the playoffs last year. It was a weekend full of twists and turns. You really didn't know what was going to happen, and we were kind of talking about it a little bit before the air. It's resulted in some pretty good viewership and a lot of good conversation out there around the league.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Cam. And one thought I did have earlier today is, does this mean there's a changing of the guard, so to speak? With a lot of these teams that are either undefeated, like I said, that did not make the playoffs last season, and we see a couple of teams that 3-1, especially like a Queen City that we see right there, 3-1, and a Lexington at 3-1. And we see a Baltimore at 2-2, kind of looking up at the rest of the division. Are we seeing somewhat of a changing of the guard in season 24?
Yeah, all I got to say about that one, Mike, is it's early. It's only week 4, so you never know what's going to happen down the stretch. And we all know those big Titans, they'll be back around, or at least that's what we would expect. But last week's show started with an Albuquerque comeback against the DC Dragons. They were down 20-10 in the second half, and they were able to come back and win that game 24-20 to stay undefeated. It was a road game. They were out here talking about, look, we can go out and win a big game on the road, and they were right. Now, 1 week later, we have a different storyline involving the Albuquerque Atoms. They were in Buffalo to take on the Queen City Corsairs, and early on, it was all Albuquerque. 7-0, Jason Williams, a touchdown machine. Kyle Finnemore breaks a tackle. He gets in the early portion of the second quarter. It's 14-0. Michael Brown trying to get the Corsair offense moving, and Chris Porter throws him back into the end zone. Marked down at the 1-yard line. That would result in pretty good field position for Albuquerque. And Cyrus Jive scores again. 21-0, 3:25 to go in the first half. Queen City a hangover from their loss against Bossier City. But that all changed middle of the third quarter. Michael Brown to Ryan Davis. And then in the fourth quarter, still down 11, Queen City started to get their team involved. And that's what's sticking out about the Corsairs. All these host of weapons, they're all getting involved.
Yeah, Cam, total transparency. After the 21-0, I kind of tuned away from this game, but then I saw an update and I said, hey, let me get back on this game. Michael Brown was slinging the ball all over the place, and this Queen City team, as you mentioned, they did a great job of getting back into this ball game.
Ryan Davis, Ace Ketchum, GP Wells, everyone involved, 21-17. It's a 4-point game. Cyrus Jive starts pressing, is intercepted there. Queen City now has the ball just outside of scoring range. And then 2 minutes later, Michael Brown finds James Matthew Jr., and Queen City has scored 24 unanswered points in the Battle of the Neon Green. 3rd and 2, they're in the red zone as Albuquerque. A field goal ties the game. Jive is picked off, looking for Jack Wall by Justin Reside. It's the second time that Reside has ended a game with a victory for Queen City in the fourth quarter with an interception. And the Corsairs, after they lost 52-3, they had been outscored 73-3 in 6 quarters of football, and they turn it around in a big way in the second half, and they topple the Albuquerque Atoms, no longer undefeated.
Yeah, Cam, and as you just mentioned, being outscored 70 something points to 3, that's one of the reasons why when it was 21-0, I'm like, okay, Queen City, they're going to resort back to the Queen City that we've seen over the past couple of seasons, man. But, big ups to them for showing a lot of fortitude and able to come back in this game and beat an undefeated Albuquerque team. You know, Ryan Davis had a huge game. Michael Brown, he was super efficient in this game, 15 out of 20 for 182 yards and a touchdown. Most of those yards were to Ryan Davis, and man, they did a great job. And Justin Reside closed it out with a huge interception at the end to seal the victory.
Now, I hate to say it, Mike, but I look at Bossier City in a totally different way. I mean, they go out there and hammer Queen City, a team that's now 3-0, other than that game against Bossier City. And I certainly look at Queen City a little bit more favorable. How do you look at Albuquerque after this game? Any differently?
No, not really. I mean, they blew the lead, but as we saw right there coming down the stretch, they did have opportunity to try to come back and win this ball game. An unfortunate pass from Jive there at the end, trying to connect with Jack Wall, but actually it was kind of a bad pass. But Justin Reside definitely took advantage of it and got the game winner. But I don't see them any differently. One thing I would like to see from this team is they're going to have to get more of a running game going, not to depend on Cyrus Jive and Kay Marion as much. Kay Marion had another huge game. She's really showing herself to be a top-notch receiver in this league so far through the first 4 weeks. But we're going to need to see more consistency out of that running game if these guys want to continue their winning ways.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more with that fullback, Justin Williams. They got a light backfield in terms of depth, so going to have to get creative. Well, a man that is never afraid of the spotlight, Justin Reside, with those 2 game-winning interceptions. He sat down with Ashley Jackson this week to talk about the big comeback victory that he got to watch with family and friends on this week's first edition of PGI.
Welcome back to where I am joined with Mr. Justin Reside, a good friend of mine, coming over from Queen City Corsairs, cornerback and assistant general manager for the team, and they are 3-1. Man, I know that has to feel good, especially after all the flack that Queen City has been getting for the past few seasons.
Yeah, definitely. But hey, 3-1's better than that 0-12 from last season. Jesus. Really.
Indeed. And you've been patient. You've been patient enough to ride the waves, man. So,
Yeah.
All right. So, Queen City held Albuquerque Adams to no points in the second half, which is absolutely amazing. So that the Adams are. I want to know from you, though, was there ever a doubt in your mind, Justin, that you guys were not going to be victorious? I mean, that you guys will win tonight? I mean, despite all the chatter and the who you got.
Yeah. I was like, when me and Margo were watching the whole thing and look at each other, we kind of both had the same mindset of, it's like we're down, my team's down 21-0. We can come back from this. When Garfield kicked that field goal, it's like, oh, thank God the comeback is starting. Here comes a comeback.
See? And that's a beautiful thing for you to be able to keep that positivity, even in times where you probably wouldn't. Now, one of the storylines from this game was the mismatch between you and Jack Wall. Now, you were able to make key plays.
It was Cam
Marion
at first. Yeah.
Right. So it was Kay Marion at first. And then during the most pivotal point of the game, it was 1 minute, 8 seconds left in the game. Another mismatch came between you and Jack Wall. And you intercepted the ball from Cyrus Drive as he was driving downfield. How did that feel to just basically put a dagger in that drive for them, because that was a very important.
It was exciting. Me and Marco were like starting to celebrating because like we both knew that Queen City, we were going to win this game because of that interception. It's like every home game so far. Yeah, every
That is
time
awesome.
I pick it off, it's like game over. That's when it's game over. It's like both home games pretty much sealed the deal.
So what do you think, and last question for you, what do you think has been Queen City's focus this season particularly to be able to have this 3-1 start?
It's figuring out what we can do. It's like every time Ryan Davis and Chad go to the lab, it's like, they figure out what works with the team and what's not during the week, and then once they put the playbook in, it's just what happens and see where you can go. And it's right now it's 3-1 after, even though we have 4 weeks and we have a lot of games left because we don't have a bye till close to the end of the season. So we're running a whole bunch of game after game after game. So,
mm-hmm. Well, again, I wish you good luck during this season. I would love to see how far Queen City goes, and maybe we'll see it in the playoffs. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Hell, maybe I could get that ring that Mike Banks was showing off on Friday night.
Indeed. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ashley. And shout out Brady White. I honestly had no idea how much people were into this league. First time watcher. This is really cool. So, Brady, welcome to the program. We appreciate you and the 45 others of you that have joined us here tonight on SFL this week. We've got Carolina Fort Worth kicking off in about 44 minutes. Marcus Dunhill's return to Fort Worth, and it's the Toros' home opener. They had 2 straight games on the road. They were on a bye last week, and so we'll get to see the Toros at home for the first time. Marcus Dunhill's return now in a new uniform with Carolina. So that's coming up in about 44 minutes. For now, let's get back to the highlights, and let's go to Fort Lauderdale, where the Florida Storm and Charleston Predators were wearing a lot of red. I don't know how Mike's going to feel about that in his Who Wore It Best later, but we'll find out later in the show. It was all Art Vandelay early. What a bomb from Ron Cochran. Vandelay nearly outrunning everybody, gets tackled at the 10. A little bit too much Vandelay in this one, but not on that throw. They get a score. Charlie Beletsky with a touchdown made it 7-0. Charleston strikes back. Amon Kopech gets the score, ties the game up at 7 with Xavier Solomon. Beletsky back in the end zone here. Nice cut back to the left. Made it 14-7 Florida over Charleston. 14-10. After a Charleston field goal, Ron Cochran picked off. Charleston's defense starting to make something happen late in the second quarter. Leo Morris with the interception, but Cochran would strike back. Ron Haynes, what a catch. Charleston a little bit too much settling for field goals in this game. That kept him trailing most of the night, but 21-13 started the second half. Amon Kopech down the field into double coverage. How often do you see that pass completed against Florida? Kopech was on fire.
He was definitely on fire, Cam, and you just took the words right out of my mouth. It's like, how often do you see any team able to have a passing game like this against this great Florida secondary?
And look at Doug Britton, just 1 minute into the third quarter, dragging defenders into the end zone. They faked the extra point to go for 2, and they missed it. Then on special teams, Doug Britton bobbles the football. Ron Haynes recovers. So Charleston misses out on an extra point or a 2-point conversion. Then they fumble the ball on the punt. Now, going back the other way, it's Stephen Bush with the touchdown from Ron Cochran. Florida retakes the lead 27-22. Fast forward, 28-25. Florida's ahead, and now they're starting to pull away. Art Vandelay, as it begins, so it ends. 35-25. Charleston, though, would not give up. 38-25, 4th and goal. They drive all the way down the field, over 400 passing yards for Amon Kopech. Doug Britton with the touchdown. 38-32, it's not done yet. Charleston just needs an onside kick recovery to try to make it happen. And Florida Storm a little nervous, trying to put away an 0-3 Predators squad. Bobbled, and it's a red massacre down there, but Florida would recover and get the win, 38-32, one of the best games in modern-day SFL history. Charleston, though, comes up a little empty and falls to 0-4.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the better games in modern SFL history, and definitely the best game of the weekend for the back and forth and excitement of this game. I had to watch it with my retinas kind of burned with all this red that we saw. Cam, no, they will not be mentioned in who wore it best this weekend. I have to, put my shades on to watch this game, but great performances from both teams. Ryan Cochran, he always seems to impress with his performances, week in, week out, season in, season out. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason, super efficient quarterback. But Florida got into a little trouble this weekend with Art Vanderlei, the Swiss Army knife. He's extremely important to this team. If we could see him, we saw him catch a touchdown pass. He had 12 rushes, which is what got this team in a little bit of trouble. But we also, we're seeing return kicks. But great performances from them. And Amon Kopech, be remiss if we didn't mention his performance. What was Kopech? 29 out of 44, 445, 445 and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Amazing.
Great performance to keep the Predators, close in this game and almost pulled it out.
Yeah, Kopech's going to get some incentive money for that. For Florida, they're on a 2-game coaching suspension. They can only submit books they had previously submitted this season without the violation, and that's big because their next 2 games are games 5 and 6. Which means they're done submitting new bases for the rest of the season because they are out of opportunities. So against an 0-3 team, I get it was in the division, but maybe not the best spot there to be trying to experiment with getting Vanderlei a little bit more touches. Now, Art Vanderlei in the passing game as well was dynamic. He really had a breakout game, and Florida won that game with their passing attack just as much as Charleston stayed in it with theirs. I mean, Ron Cochran was outstanding. Art Vanderlei stepped up. We saw Stephen Bush with some big catches. Ron Haynes with some incredible plays. Charleston played well, but Florida played just a little bit better, and it was good to finally see Florida open things up offensively a little bit. They had been a little sluggish. They really played well in that game.
Yeah, Cam, they're 5-time champions for a reason. They know how to utilize all their players on offense. Willard Beletsky, he only had 8 touches in this game, but he did have a couple of touchdown rushes, as well. So, this is what we expect from Florida. They're always going to be competitive. They're always going to come up with different ways to beat you offensively. The defense typically plays a whole lot better than they did Saturday night, but they did just enough to come away with the victory.
And Florida gets a little bit of a break. They get Nashville next week, who's really been struggling. We'll talk about them a little bit more later in the show. Nashville beat a Titan last season in Canton in a big spot, but this, I don't know if Nashville's got it in them this go-around. We'll find out. Skippy with a $1.99 Super Chat, MSG. So, who wore it best? I guess she's asking between the 2 teams. Which red did you prefer?
I have to go with Charleston. I think they wore it best between those 2 teams. To be honest with you, if we could do a retro who wore it best, even though they lost the game, I really like Florida's look last Monday night. They looked really sharp with the dark blue and really, sharp stripes and everything that they had on last week. I was hoping to see more of that, but they decided to burn my retinas this week.
Thank you for the Super Chat, Skip, and thanks for a great game, Charleston and Florida. That was an excellent job. All right, so moving on with the show, it was just a bunch of bangers this week. We got another great game, and that was your Houston Headhunters taking on the defending champs, the Mexico City Aztecs, and right away, it was Mexico City. Look at Suron Yates, the big fella, taking a fumble and taking it all the way back to about the 28-yard line of Houston early on in this game, but only would get a field goal out of the drive. Tied at 3, Jason Peace. Man, this dude is taking over, Mike. What a performance. Another interception there. That was his 3rd of the season. And then Josh Slapp, who had to put the team on his back with DR Sim injured, gets that touchdown to put Houston up 10-3. Go get trophies indeed. 3rd and goal. This might have been the biggest play of the game. Bentley stopped 3rd and goal from the 1. What a play by Chris Britton III, forcing a Mexico City field goal. 13-6. Jason Peace with his 4th interception. He's tied for the lead league. What did I say? The lead league. No, I think that's still wrong. Ray Bentley firing into the end zone. That's the score. 16-13. Mexico City's only down 3 with 7:40 to go. All the pressure on Mexico City, but Mac Dre and the Houston defense might deliver.
Yeah, the Houston defense played fantastic all game long. As we mentioned, Jason Peace with a couple of interceptions, but Mac Dre did a good job coming down the stretch with a couple of huge sacks to pretty much seal the deal in this game, Cam.
3rd down and 8 after Dre had a couple of big-time sacks. There's the second one there. That forced a punt for Mexico City, and then after Houston was unable to do anything with it offensively, Mexico City would get the ball back on the other side of the 3-minute warning and have another opportunity to go and tie the game. But Dre with a couple sacks gets an incentive. Jason Peace with a couple interceptions also gets an incentive. We had, I think it was Greg Corky over 100 yards. He gets an incentive, so Houston raking it in. 3rd down and 6, 3 minutes to go. Trying to hold off the defending champs. Look at Mac Dre in there again. He forced that early throw. Mexico City has to punt, and they never got it back because Josh Slapp put the team on his back. But Mac Dre absolutely took over that game. Everybody else helped him out, clean it up.
Yeah, Mac Dre was huge coming down the stretch, Cam. That defensive line and that Houston pass rush was really giving Sype trouble all game long. They were sending different blitz packages at him all game long. They really they did a good job for most of the game picking up the blitz packages that Houston was sending, but Mac Dre came through big at the end, and then we saw Chris Britton make a couple of huge plays, and I have to mention Blake Prime in this game, Cam. He had 12 tackles in this game. He was huge in this game as well. The defense played fantastic, and Greg Corky came through to give Houston their 4th 100-yard receiver in as many games.
Yeah, and I don't know if a team around the league has had 3 different receivers have a 100-yard game already through the first 4 weeks. So Houston definitely knows how to spread the ball around. Our crack analytic team wasn't able to come up with that one as quickly as we would have hoped, but it's definitely a short list out there with that Houston receiving corps. So Houston moves to 3-1. The South is stacked. Now Mexico City is 2-1. Fort Worth's actually in last place. They're 1-1 here tonight, trying to get back in the mix with that big game against Carolina. But, you know, it's no surprise that Mexico City and Houston played each other in a close game. This was the 22nd meeting. Houston leads the all-time series 12-10 after that win. And it feels like every game, that 3rd and goal stop, Mike, it reminded me of last season. It seems like anytime these two teams play, there's always some stellar goal line stand on 3rd and goal. These two teams know how to play defense against each other, at least.
They know how to play defense, and they definitely know how to play defense against one another. It's always a knockdown, drag out whenever Houston and Mexico City meets, and this game did not disappoint. It was really a huge game. I think for Houston, it was obviously Mexico City. They don't want to lose the game, of course, but I think it was a bigger game for Houston to not get into this 2-2, 3-3, 4-4. Right. To give them some breathing room as to if there ever is any breathing room. But definitely the 3-1 start is better than being in a 2-2 or 1-3 hole.
2 of the next 3 games for Mexico City are in the division, so things are getting interesting for the defending champs. Mac Dre with a $5 super chat. Thanks for the love, guys, man. I love this league. Thanks for the great performance. 2+ sacks, and check your bank account later. Well, really late tonight as we get those incentives paid out. Congrats on that, man, and appreciate your love for the show. All right, let's move on. We've got more highlights to get to, more very interesting football around the league. Let's go to Las Vegas, where the Washington Trident were taking on the Sin City Samurai. And Mike St. Green, I don't think Kappa Jones' nickname was Wheels in high school, but he got it there all the way for the score. Yeah?
Yeah, he was getting there as quickly as he could, Cam.
13-3, Washington on top by 10 at this point. Scar Patterson decked from behind. The pump fake, couldn't find anybody open down the field. That's free safety Willie Bands getting in there. Tommy Utah, man, this guy is not flashy, Mike, but he's not turning the ball over. He has really been a revelation for this Washington offense.
Yeah, and he's never been flashy, even in his days in Louisiana, but he's been a huge pickup for Washington, and he's just a steady and conservative quarterback that's not making a lot of mistakes, and is coming up huge for Washington right now.
Israel Adams with a catch inside the 5. This game, time ran out on Sin City quick, down 19-3. Patterson dumps it short. Al Dillapre Sr. makes it 19-9. They got to go for 2 with 1:53 to go. Scar Patterson looking for someone to get open. He's sacked again. And then let's go to Arizona as Washington won that game 19-9. Hey, Switch Thumper got hurt on his second throw of the game, but Collins comes in for Nashville, drops this beauty to Chris Arthur for the score.
Yeah, I saw the stat, Cam. I didn't know Switch had gotten injured. He was 1-for-1 for 9 yards, but then the replacement comes in and makes a huge touchdown throw.
Yayo Montana strikes back. Ashley Jackson with the score ties the game at 7. Then in the second half, tied at 10, Buchanan Simons was the difference maker. He opened up this game. Ashley Jackson hands off to DJ Moses. Arizona starting to pull ahead just a little bit. Nashville has been terrible in second halves of games this season. Jackson again to Buchanan Simons on the next drive as Arizona really starts to pull away late in the third quarter. And on a goal-to-go situation, the Scorpions would once again put some clothes on, guys. Would once again take things into the end zone. This is Brad Jones in the backfield with Bismarck right out in front with a nice key block, and Jones is in the end zone. Arizona ends up winning 30-17. So Washington wins 19-9. Arizona wins 30-17. Let's start with Washington first. They're still undefeated, and while Sin City didn't have much offense going, it really felt like it was Washington's defense that was really holding it down because they made so many plays just stripping the ball away, knocking the ball out, timely hits. They really made life hell for the Samurai all afternoon, really, until a no-huddle drive kind of got Washington off kilter. It was a really impressive win, especially considering that Lexington was blanked by the Samurai just last week.
Yeah, this Trident defense, Cam, they're playing excellent football right now. They harassed Scar Patterson pretty much all game long. They had 4 sacks. 4 sacks in this game, 2 by Rodney Panani, as well as 4 interceptions in this game. So they really gave them fits in the passing game. And then when you look at Logan Lee and Robert Johnson, they came out with only 32 yards each rushing. So they did a fantastic job of shutting them down totally in this game, and not to take anything away from them by this next statement is that I wonder if the league has kind of caught up to what Canton / Sin City likes to do offensively and defensively, because where's the MVP from last year on defense? He only had 3 tackles in this game, no sacks, no TFLs, and he's been kind of invisible over the first couple of weeks of the season, and but Washington did a great job overall in this game. And I don't want to go without mentioning Shane Kaufman. He was over 100 yards rushing in this game as well. That kept his offense efficient and on the field, and keeping long drives together.
And similar to what Josh Slapp was able to do with Houston, Washington lost Christopher Dean in that game, and so it was kind of up to Kaufman to shoulder a larger burden, and he definitely stepped up to the challenge. $5 super chat from Chris Delro. Not the start we wanted, but Nashville won't give up. And I got to say, you lose your quarterback on the first drive of the game. You're on the road. You're taking on one of the best defenses in the SFL in Arizona, and you still only lost by 13. Nashville has been in every game they've played, but it feels, Mike, like because all of the rest of the competition has stepped up around the league, it's just not enough from Nashville. They're certainly competing every single week, but they just have not figured out how to put together proper 40 minutes.
Yeah, they have a super competitive roster, and as you mentioned, they've been in every game. They played, us in Houston. They played us tough. They could have easily came out ahead in that game, fell a little short, and then it's always unfortunate to lose any player early in the game, but to lose your quarterback there early in the game or at all, that really puts you behind the eight ball, and you're asking for a backup quarterback to come through and perform as a starter would, and that's just going to be difficult, as you mentioned, especially against a team as good as the Arizona Scorpions.
Yeah, I think Arizona, the 6 turnovers in 3 games, they just got to clean up the mistakes, and if they can do that, then we're talking about a championship contender there. Well, Washington, Vancouver, who we'll get to a little bit later, and Bossier City, who was on a bye, all unbeaten. And one of the reasons why the Washington Trident are unbeaten is because of their new addition, Albert Begin, to the staff. He's been a defensive guru for a while, and now he's helping Washington find some success. Ashley Jackson caught up with Albert Begin, his first appearance on PGI this season. We'll see what he had to say about Washington's win over Sin City and their hot start.
Welcome back to PGI, where I am joined with a great friend of mine, defensive coordinator, Mr. Albert Begin, over from the Washington Trident. Man, got starting off 3-0, Albert. Last time I talked to you, you was leaving. But how you doing?
Yeah, I was packing my bags. I think I got that pink slip. No, I'm kidding. I took my ball and went home. No, I'm kidding. I went to a good franchise that's in early development. Try to help out, the rookies.
Definitely, and I respect that decision. Being able to help out, a group of individuals that that needed it. That's noble of you. So kudos for that, man. But let's talk about this. So let's start off with the interceptions galore that was happening for you guys. I mean, from DeSantis to Kappa Jones with the pick 6. So do you think that the pick 6 was the turning point for this game?
I believe the way the defense played in a whole was a turning point to the game. I know Kappa Jones getting that pick 6 fired everyone up, especially with a very close game where it was. I believe they were driving on us pretty good down the field, and then Kappa said, "Nope, this is my ball, my game," and he took the reins and fired everyone up. And he's an old friend, Kappa Jones from QCC back in the day. You want to give some shout outs to QCC just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Okay. They're also doing pretty good this year too, to start off.
Correct.
Now the fumble from Christopher Dean and Sin City capitalizing off that had to be frustrating to see to start the game off.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. You got the jitters there. He fumbled. We got the ball back, kept him to 3. Defense came out, played. We went back. I think the next drive, we're like, here's the ball. You know what to do. Don't, you've been here before. Act like it. So he took the ball and he ran. He got hurt, but he did his job.
Yeah. Gotcha. Last question for you, Coach. Now, as a defensive coach, who would you say has been a role model for you on this journey of success that you're experiencing through your career?
I can't say it's just one person. I think I could say as a defensive coach where I've been in with different coaches, it's just not me. Like I came to Washington where we have Doug. Not Doug, Drew. And he's another defensive mind. And me and him work very well together. This win is just not from me. It's also from Drew. We bounce. It's good to have someone to bounce ideas off of. He's learning from me and I'm learning from him more ways than one about game planning. Thump is out there helping. I think it's a team effort, really. I can't really just say I look at one person and go, oh, that's who I model my defense after. It's a correlation I think I said that wrong, but of everyone, all input, all eyes, from the coaching staff. That's to me has always been the success of us winning.
All right, then. Well, I'll tell you what. I wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season. Of course, until you play Arizona again. But you guys keep up the good work over there. As I told you off air, it is very tough to be basically the new kids on the block, and trying to establish yourself. And you guys are definitely making a statement out here. So good luck to you.
Thank you. And again, I want to shout out, like I said before, to Washington, a great organization. I came over for the experience that they needed, that vet in the locker room to say, hey, this works, this doesn't. Without them, I wouldn't be talking to you 3-0. I'm going to be completely humble with that.
All right, then. I'll see you soon.
See you later, Ashley.
Back to you. All right, love.
Thank you, Ashley. And, now let's talk about some blowouts. This segment has been quite long over the first few weeks, but not this week. Only a couple to speak of. Let's start with the most shocking one. That was last night in the late window. Pittsburgh, from opening whistle to the closing gun, they just took it to Baltimore. It was really surprising. I said before the game to the crew, hope Pittsburgh can establish a run game here today because I don't think they're going to be able to throw it all over these guys. And Ace Fennick came out. He had one of his best performances of his career. Pittsburgh gets the win over Baltimore 38-17, and Baltimore got the last score there in the final couple minutes of that game, dropping Baltimore to 0-2 in the reformed North Division, which is quietly looking quite difficult. Pittsburgh snaps a 3-game losing streak, and they get their first win and quite possibly their biggest win in franchise history.
Without a doubt, their biggest win. They were in desperation mode, being 0-3 coming into this game. You definitely don't want to go 0-4, and it was the biggest surprise of the weekend. No question about it. The coaching change that they had last week. Coach Craven took over, and it seemed like he really dialed up some things that this Pittsburgh Riverhawk team had been needing. As you mentioned, the running game needed to get going, and actually it did. BB Blitz had a huge game. He had over 100 yards rushing, 110 to be exact, and 3 touchdowns. But Ace Fennick, he came in and performed the way that they expected him to perform from day one when they brought him in. He did a fantastic job of getting his offense moving. Mike Twinscrew, another free agent pickup as well, that had a great game. And Pittsburgh, surprisingly totally dominated this Baltimore Vultures team.
Lest we forget, BB Blitz at one point was graded like a 42 overall, and he's blossomed into a great talent. And it's proof out there to all those rookies playing in SFLM over the first couple of weeks, and as they continue on their journey in the SFL, you just got to stay the course. It's tough sledding for a while, but you find the right organization and you find the right team that can build you up, and Pittsburgh has certainly done that. With BB, Baltimore loses their second game in the division. They lost to Lexington in week 1. And that division now has 3 teams at the top at 3-1, DC, Lexington, and Queen City. Pittsburgh now just 2 games back. The Mike Daggs and Gerald Smith Game of the Week curse struck again after they gave it to Queen City and Bossier City 2 weeks ago. They gave it to Denver, Lexington this week. And that game ended in a shocking blowout, a battle of 2-1 teams. Lexington lays the hammer down on Denver and really clobbered the Nightwings again from start to finish. Denver did start to get back in that game a little bit. It was 21-0, then it was 21-10. I said, oh boy, here we go, another 21-0 lead blown. But Lexington found a way to get it done. They improved to 3-1. Their lone loss to 1-3, Sin City, their lone win. So you really do never know what's going to happen in season 24.
Now you don't know what's going to happen, and just looking at this game and seeing how it kind of panned out, I think some teams, Cam, are starting to figure out, who they are, what type of personnel that they have, how can they deploy them, how can they use certain personnel in certain situations. Kitty Slider had a huge game, 277 yards, 5 touchdown passes. What's surprising, and that is, as I mentioned, learning how to use different personnel. Alex West was his main target in this game. He had over 100 yards, a monster game, I think 140 plus yards receiving. Gabriel Manning, surprisingly enough, did not have a huge game. His first catch was in the fourth quarter, only had about 40 yards receiving for himself, which is surprising to see how Lexington pretty much dominated this game in the passing game, and Gabriel Manning was not a huge part of that. So Lexington, learning how to use different weapons. Phoenix Jones had a solid game, about 55, 60 yards rushing, just a solid performance all the way around. They pretty much shut down the Denver Nightwings offense and came up with a huge win.
And you could tell that Denver, they were blanketing Manning. He didn't catch his first 5 targets, but kudos to Lexington's other skilled players. They stepped up in a big way. DJ Bandit had some very timely, deep catches down the field from his tight end position. Lexington gets the win. Denver falls, but no big deal for Denver. They're still in a tie for the Central Division at 2-2. So in the North, 2-2 gets you 4th. In the South, 500 gets you last. That's where Fort Worth is. And in the Central, 2-2 gets you first. That's Minnesota and Denver. And speaking of Minnesota, we've got a few more highlights to get to, but some of these offenses might want to avert your eyes. It's a little bit difficult. Let's go to Minnesota, where the Legend were taking on the Chicago Warriors. And early on, man, Chicago's defense, they were balling. Kai Magic in the vicinity on that Johnny Reno fumble. And, this was the Mark Mello game. 6 sacks, 2.5 shy of tying the SFL record, but he had an incredible day. Finally, Deezer Powell able to break through offense in this game. That is now 10-0 late in the third. Type attack in the red zone has a chance for Chicago, just cannot come down with it. The Warriors end up getting a field goal. Type attack again in scoring range. They were only down 13-3 at this point, but they had to settle for the field goal after that sack, and because of that sack, they made the field goal more difficult, and from 45 yards away, stoink, right off the pole. And Minnesota ends up getting the win 20-3, thanks in part to that Colin Hart run. Minnesota improves to 2-2. Chicago drops to 1-4. Now to D.C., where the Los Angeles Lycans were in town to take on the Dragons. D.C. at 2-1, trying to improve to a 75 win percentage. They'll do that with Peanut Say. On 2nd and goal, they make it more difficult, but Sully Richardson, one of the best passes of the week around the league. That was a nice find to LZ Pryor, ties the game at 7. In the third quarter, Kevin Say into the end zone. 30 seconds to go in the third, and DC takes the lead 14-7. LA's still in this. Sully Richardson finds Chris Lee, crosses the 50. They're only down 7 with 7.5 to go, but here on 3rd down and 4, Richardson misses a wide open target. Mike, some of these quarterbacks, they just got a little bit too much throw power, I think, in those arms.
Yeah, Sully, he's going to wish that he had that one back. Wide open, could have tied the ball game right there. Came up empty and had to settle for 3.
Connor Weston gets a nice catch, their free agent acquisition. And then Chuck Steller runs it in 24-10, D.C. the final. Bouncing ball here for the Atlanta Swarm, whose offense got off to a 3rd slow start in 4 games as Vancouver took advantage of that. Mateo Pravado with the dive? Sorta. He didn't get much airtime on that one. Achilles Papatonis with Atlanta in the red zone gets a sack. Atlanta has to go for a field goal. Christian Brown, that's not a tush push. That's a non-tush push. Nobody in the backfield. He takes the quarterback sneak and scores. Then on 3rd down and 4, again, by Atlanta on 3rd down, they are just getting crushed. They end up having to settle for a field goal. And 14-6, Atlanta trying to make something happen desperately. And that is an interception for Vancouver. And then how about a quarterback draw on the goal line from Christian Brown? He scores. And Vancouver gets the win 21-6. Atlanta, L.A., Chicago, all struggling offensively, all with 1 win or less. We've seen a lot of A lot of offenses really starting to hit their stride in week 4, but these teams are going to need another week. Which game caught your attention the most from our last 3 highlights?
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to say Minnesota and Chicago, just from the standpoint of I think Chicago, they're having the most problems. Since we're talking about, struggling offenses, for whatever reason, they're struggling more than anyone else in this league right now. They've only scored 1 touchdown in 4 games. They are having trouble protecting Ty Pataki. He was sacked 6 times by Mark Mello alone in this game. There's no real running game to speak of right now with them, even with Baloo Scott coming out of retirement and they, re-signing her. They have Quig Mam on this team as a free agent receiver that they have picked up. It's just kind of an enigma right now to me as to what is going on with them or what they need to do to try to get things going. But they are struggling, pretty badly, and I'm not sure what it's going to take for them to get out of this funk.
Yeah, just some quick thoughts on some of those offenses. Chicago, I don't necessarily know that the scheme they're trying to run fits their personnel right now. I think you have to look at what are we built to do and what's our best chance at succeeding there. Los Angeles last week in their victory, they ran the ball a lot. And Patrick Rudling and Darius Iniguez was a really nice 1-2 punch that both of them had over 100 yards. They kind of got away from the run against the DC Dragons and put it back in Sully's court, and he struggled to carry the load. And, Atlanta, it feels like, Mike, when they don't get their weapons going early, it seems like they don't get their run game going either. And so maybe they need to figure out how to get that run game going first, because too often their pass game just doesn't get going, and then BDG kind of disappears from these games. So really interesting stuff there. $5 super chat from Brett Killian. Christian Brown is currently tied for 6th in rushing touchdowns in the league. He's a quarterback. So you love to see the diversity in game plans there. Vancouver is 3-0. And, the Legion, they had an early bye, right? And then they had kind of a ho-hum game against Charleston, and then they played Oklahoma City last week. So they kind of got buried in the early part of this season, but the Vancouver Legion are just as good as any team out there in the SFL right now. And maybe we're sitting here talking about Atlanta a little bit too much, and maybe it's more about, how great Vancouver played instead.
Yeah, I'm kind of keeping my eye on them, Cam, as you mentioned. Bye week to start the season. Obviously, obvious lesser opponent in Oklahoma City. We don't know what Atlanta. We feel like we should know what Atlanta is, but I don't feel like we've seen the true Atlanta swarm yet. But I'm leaning towards Vancouver as being back to the Vancouver that we've accustomed, to seeing for many, many seasons. They've struggled over the past couple of seasons, but I kind of think that they're back. I'm going to watch them a little bit closely here the next few weeks to see how they perform. But they've done a great job so far this season. And if you're 3-0, hey, you can't have any complaints. So we'll see what they do moving forward the rest of the season.
Minnesota, DC, Vancouver. Who scares you most?
Minnesota, DC.
Who would you not want to play next week? Let's put it that way.
I would say Minnesota, just because they just seem to, they definitely have an established running game with Colin Hart and Isaac Knox over there. The quarterback situation is great. They still have, great weapons on the outside, and then that defense can come through and do the things that we saw them do, this weekend with Mark Mello having 6 sacks and things of that sort. They're still a well-rounded team. They're still one of the better rosters in this league, even though they're at 2-2 right now. They did have a tough opening schedule to start the season off with, but Minnesota would be the team that would probably be the toughest you want to try to prepare for right now.
All right, Mike, about 8 minutes left. It's time for your spectaculars from week 4. What you got?
Man, it's a ton of spectaculars from this week. We just mentioned Mark Mello. He has to be on the list as one of the spectaculars of the week. 6 sacks in one game. That's just huge for any player in this league. We got to mention Jason Peace with the 2 huge interceptions against Mexico City to get a huge win for Houston over the defending champs. But spectacular of the week for as players go, Cam, it has to go to Kenny Slider, Lexington Miners, 277 yards, passing 5 touchdowns. He was fantastic in this game. He is my spectacular of the week. But who wore it best? I typically do that first. I almost let it slide, Cam, but
I was going to ask you about it.
But I'm going to go with Arizona Scorpions. I think they wore it best this week. They were the socks were a little bit too high for my liking. I like the lower socks, but they were sharp. They had that orange jersey working with the orange helmet. They played well. Defense played fantastic. Looked good. Played good, and they get my nod for who wore it best this week.
There you go. Shout out to Greg Soto. All right, time for our favorite part of the week. It's Ron Haynes and Haynes Vision breaking down this Carolina Skyhawks Fort Worth Toros matchup tonight. I can't wait to see what you think about the over/under in this game, because I'm not expecting too many fireworks. But hey, you never know. In the SFL, things could get crazy. All right, let's get to Haynes Vision, and let's start with the Carolina Skyhawks. Marcus Dunhill, their new quarterback. It has been a struggle early on, needless to say. Last week, he was just 5 of 14 passing. You figure, Mike, they got to get it moving offensively in the pass game, and it starts with him.
Yeah, they're going to have to get this pass game figured out, Cam. As you mentioned, 5 of 14 last week. He did have, a touchdown pass there, but they are definitely going to figure out a way to get Marcus Dunhill comfortable and with his receivers and get things more efficient with this passing game right now.
Chris Curtis had almost all those yards last week and the touchdown. Riley Quintero, their bell cow in the backfield, he was the surprise player of the season last season, and he continues to perform admirably. 118 yards against Indianapolis, and you just can't put your finger on it, but he is just so tough to stop.
Yeah, it's really surprising. As last season, going back to last season real quick, he was kind of, just came out of nowhere. It surprised everyone, had a fantastic season, but to get this passing game going, they're going to have to get him going as well as Harish Prasad. These guys were a great 1-2 punch last season, and this is going to be huge for them to get this passing game going as well.
They provide the spark in the backfield, and when that pass game can get going, this offense is really difficult to stop. His brother, Shravan Prasad, had an interception in their last game. They were on bye last week, along with 10 tackles. He's ever dangerous. He never used to be a big hands guy with the interceptions, but he's really starting to come down with things recently, as is his linebacking partner. Danny Stinson had a pick against Indy as well.
Yeah, Danny Simpson has been a huge addition to this team, and he's a combination with Sharon back there in that defensive front 7, and they've done a great job of getting turnovers for this ball club.
15 tackles, 4 behind the line. Then finally at linebacker, Mojo McClain, he had 4 TFLs. These linebackers shoot the gap. They make it really difficult to get rushing yards on, and we've seen Fort Worth struggle a little bit in the run department against some good run defenses.
Yeah, the offense have been struggling a little bit putting up points, Cam, but this defense, they've been fantastic at getting after the ball, and we see them getting after the ball again right there, making them a great play.
All right, how about the Fort Worth Toros? We start with Eric Price. This guy has bounced around the last few seasons, but so far, maybe the efficiency not there, but he's keeping the turnovers down in the first couple of games for Fort Worth and not making the critical error.
Yeah, and that's the key. All you want to do, he's working his way into this offense, trying to get things figured out, stay efficient, not turn the ball over too much, and we can see him making great plays right there to Stephen Hacker, and Stephen Hacker has never lost, Cam.
Yeah, and you know what? He keeps trying to retire, but when you keep making plays like that, how can you retire? 97 yards in that last game against Baltimore. They really let that game get away from them. Fort Worth looking for their first win since week 1. In the backfield, J.Z. Bacon. This is crazy to me. In this game, he had 5 carries. 5 carries, and the game got away from them. They had to rely on Eric Price a lot, but man, J.Z. Bacon and Jet Zero in the backfield, they really can carry the load if Fort Worth can get him involved. Aaron Alexander blocks for him and occasionally gets carries and muscles his way into the end zone like that.
Yeah, Eric Alexander's been a great fullback for this team for a long time. It doesn't, they don't ask him to do a lot in the run game, but when he does, we can see him get into the end zone right there in the short yardage situations.
On the defensive side, former MVP Delaney Nash still doing his thing, making life difficult for opposing quarterbacks. He just seems, he is the old school ball hawk, Mike. He is never not around the football.
He's definitely old school, Cam, as you mentioned, former defensive MVP, and that Fort Worth secondary is probably going to be a difference in this game tonight.
Dexter Jackson, look at him highlighted there, the outside linebacker, over-pursued T-Roy Gaines just a little bit, but still was somehow able to make nearly a TFL. He had 2 TFLs in that last game against Baltimore. He is always going to be a force. His partner in crime is E.K. Vincent, and Vincent on a retirement tour currently right now, trying to look at how he just stands there, waits for Murray, and attacks. He's one of the best.
Oh, he's definitely been one of the best for a long time, Cam. Questionable if he has a Hall of Fame career, but if he's on a retirement tour, I hate to hear it, but yeah, man, he's had a great career.
So that's a look at Carolina. That's a look at Fort Worth. We're back at the Stockyards tonight. We've got 1 minute left. Who do you have winning tonight's ball game, Mike?
Fort Worth 2.5-point favorite in this game, Cam. I kind of agree with that line. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tight. But I think Fort Worth is going to win this game. I think they are going to cover the 2.5. I predicted a low-scoring game last week, but hey, neither one of these offenses have shown me anything otherwise, and it's going to be low-scoring this week. But I may go a little bit higher than what I did last week. How about Fort Worth 17, Carolina 13?
17-13, Fort Worth gets a win. You heard it here first. That's from Mike St. Green. All right, Tyler Falk, Chris Curtis are back in studios. We've got our stat crew that will meet here shortly. Charles Doherty is standing by alongside yours truly. We've got the call of Carolina Fort Worth tonight on the Monday Night Spectacular. And for me and Mike for SFL this week, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.